Do you think Afrikaner farmers are the most persecuted group in the world?
I think those 49 people that came certainly felt they were persecuted, and they've passed every sort of check mark that had to be checked off in terms of meeting the requirements for that. They live in a country where farms are taken and land is taken on a racial basis.
Okay.
Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back. I just had to start recording this one because I am really angry right now. You just saw that clip. Tim Kaine, the guy who always acts like he knows what is right and wrong for everyone, is sitting there trying to trap Secretary Marco Rubio with tricky questions. Look at the logic here. Kaine is basically saying, if we can't let in the whole world, then we shouldn't let in anyone. That is some of the most out-of-touch, rich people thinking I have ever heard. He is actually going after a small group of hard-working farmers who are being targeted because of their skin color and their jobs, just because it does not match his political ideas. Rubio is sitting there, calm and relaxed, basically telling him, hey, we have a country to take care of, we have a border to protect. I'm telling you, the difference here is crazy. One guy wants to focus on America's safety and people who earn their place, and the other guy, Kaine, just keeps focusing on identity politics while the rest of the world is in chaos. Let's watch the rest of this mess and see how Rubio deals with this guy.
Mr. Secretary, I want to ask you about the program. It's the United States Refugee Assistance Program, and this is a program that state is the manager of, but together with other cabinet secretariats, DHS and HHS, state plays the lead management role, and it is how to manage the U.S. refugee assistance programs in tandem with contractors who help the United States on that. By an executive order on the first day of his presidency, President Trump paused all refugee programs and has canceled contracts to the agencies like the U.S. Catholic Church or Lutheran Refugee Services or HIAS or Church World Services who've been resettling refugees. Those programs are paused. There's litigation about it, but as far as I know, the United States is not, or the administration has not withdrawn the executive order. So there's essentially from this administration no refugee programs for anyone except. In early February, the president announced a special refugee program for Afrikaner farmers, justified A, by some concerns about South Africa and foreign policy, but B, a claim that these were persecuted individuals. So right now, the U.S. refugee program allows a special program for Afrikaner farmers, the first group of whom arrived at Dulles Airport in Virginia not long ago, while shutting off the refugee program for everyone else. Do you think Afrikaner farmers are the most persecuted group in the world?
I think those 49 people that came certainly felt they were persecuted, and they've passed every sort of check mark that had to be checked off in terms of meeting the requirements for that. They live in a country where farms are taken and land is taken on a racial basis.
Okay. Do you think they're more persecuted than Uyghurs or Rohingyas, or more persecuted than political dissidents in Cuba or Venezuela or Nicaragua, or more persecuted than those who would be threatened should they be returned to Afghanistan by violence by the Taliban?
Well, the problem we face there is the volume problem, okay? If you look at all the persecuted people of the world, it's millions of people. They can't all come here. And we had refugee programs.
So why prioritize Afrikaner farmers?
Well, because it's a small subset, it's a new issue, and the president identified it as a problem and wanted to use it as an example. But that's different from having these refugee programs that were basically spending money to put people up in communities and accommodate them, and it was acting as a magnet. Millions of people in this country illegally, and today the border is sealed.
Let me challenge you, and I'm just going to say for the public, if you want to understand about the, quote, persecution of Afrikaner farmers, go look at the composition of the South African government. Since July of 2024, there's a government of national unity, and the opposition party to the ANC, the Afrikaner Party, the Democracy Alliance, is part of the governing coalition. They joined the governing coalition a year ago, and the leader of that party was given the remit of Agriculture Minister, John Steenhuisen. He is the leader of the former Afrikaner Party, still widely representing Afrikaners. He is the Minister of Agriculture in South Africa right now. I assert that this claim that there's persecution of Afrikaner farmers is completely specious. Are you aware ever during the apartheid era in South Africa, did the United States establish a special program to allow South African blacks who were treated as second-class citizens in the apartheid program, a special program so they could claim refugee status in the United States?
No, because I was probably in 9th grade or 8th grade at the time.
Yeah, well, then I don't expect you to know. I'll just tell you, never has there been a special program for Africans to come in as refugees to the United States. We've allowed special programs for people being persecuted for their religion, Soviet-era Jews. We've allowed special programs for people fleeing from communism, Cuba, Vietnam, the Soviet Union. We've never allowed a special program to allow Africans into the United States in an expedited refugee status until now. Afrikaner farmers living in a nation governed by a government of national unity that includes the main Afrikaner party. And actually, an even more right-wing Afrikaner party is also included in the coalition government. Now, would you agree with me, Mr. Secretary, that if we're interpreting the statutory phrase, a well-justified fear of persecution, we should try to do that in an even-handed way?
I think we should try to do that in the interest of the national security of the United States.
So okay, I agree with you too. We should. Should we try to do it in an even-handed way? So, for example, should we say, if you're persecuted on the grounds of your religion, we'll let you in if you're a Christian, but not if you're a Muslim?
I think that the United States has a right to allow into this country and prioritize allowance of who they want to allow to come in.
But
I'm going
to ask you, what,
Yeah.
So a well-justified fear of persecution?
Yeah, they thought that their farms
you
were
don't
being
think
burned
that
down and they would
means
be
anything?
killed. I think that's a pretty good justification for wanting to come. They're
Okay.
afraid for their lives.
And should it be applied in an even-handed way? That's an easy
No, our foreign policy doesn't require even-handedness. It
Well, wait,
requires
but
prioritizing the interest of the United
statutory
States.
phrase says you are entitled to entrance as a refugee if you demonstrate a well-justified fear of persecution.
No, you're not entitled,
So
you're
can you
allowed.
have a different standard based upon the color of somebody's skin? Would that be acceptable?
Well, I'm not the one arguing that. Apparently you are, because you don't like the fact that they're
I'm
white,
just
and that's why
asking you
they're
to
coming.
say that that would be unacceptable.
no,
That
I would say that
seem
the
to
United
be a
States-
very easy
The
thing
United
to say.
States has a right to pick and choose who they allow into the United
Even
States.
based on the color of somebody's skin.
No one's, you're the one that's talking about the color of their skin, not me. These
You're
are people whose
refusing to
farms were being
acknowledge
burned
that it
down and they
should
were
be
killed because of the
even-handed.
color of their skin.
Well,
Because they were- Well, you've demonstrated enough because you think anyone should be allowed into this country for any reason because they met a certain
Who has
criteria.
said that?
We are going to prioritize people that come into our country on the basis of what's in the interest of this country. That's a small number of people that are coming.
But
in
you
that
said
particular
you said
case.
this weekend that
But
there
in
would
other
be more.
cases, it's harder to vet. In other cases, it's more difficult. And by the way, the United States admits people every year. 1 million people come to this country every year legally. 1 million
And
people
now
a year come to this
there
country
is one
legally.
group
No
of
other
people
country in
that
the
have
world
an
is nearly as
easy
generous.
pass into this country. For the first time, this administration has said Afrikaners get an easy pass and refugee programs for the remainder of the world are shut off. And you can't say to the American public that we should apply this statute in an even-handed way.
No, I
I'm
think it should
shocked
be
at that,
applied in a
and I
way.
yield
No, well, you
back.
shouldn't be shocked. It should be applied in the national interest of the United States. Our immigration policy should be based on the national interest of the United States. Period. End of story. If there is a subset of people that are easier to vet, who we have a better understanding of who they are and what they're going to do when they come here, they're going to receive preference, no doubt about it. There are a lot of sad stories around the world. Millions and millions of people around the world. It's heartbreaking. We cannot assume millions and millions of people around the world. No country can. So you have to have a process of deciding who do you prioritize, who do you allow in. We do it all the time. We do it in our immigration system now under our current laws. Unfortunately, it's primarily based on family connection and not on what they're going to contribute to the society from a merit standpoint. That should be changed, but that'll require statutory changes. But the bottom line is, this notion that somehow we have to accept anyone who wants to come to the United States is absurd. No country in the world has an immigration policy like that.
And no one is arguing that we should. I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Unbelievable. Did you guys hear that? Shocking. Kaine says, you know what is actually shocking, Tim? The fact that you care more about being fair to the whole world than you do about keeping American people safe. Let's explain why Rubio completely won this moment. Rubio said the one thing that longtime politicians in Washington, D.C. do not like to hear. The United States has the right to decide who is allowed to come in. That's it. End of story. Since when did the U.S. become a place where anyone can walk in without control? Rubio is standing up for the idea that immigration should help the country. If there's a group of people who are easy to check, who have useful skills, like growing food, and who share similar values, then why would we say no to them just to meet some strange fairness rule for places controlled by the Taliban in Afghanistan? Did you notice how Kaine kept talking about their skin color? He is the one focused on it. He is actually trying to say these farmers should not be refugees because they are white. Think about that. If this was any other group being attacked and killed, Kaine would be the first person speaking emotionally about it in the Senate. But because they are Afrikaners, he calls their suffering not real. That is disturbing. It is that extreme political thinking where someone goes so far left that they end up excusing harm against people because they do not fit their idea of a victim. Rubio made a strong point about checking who comes in. We have seen what happens when borders are wide open. Many times, we do not even know who is entering. Rubio is basically saying, look, this is a small group. We know them. They are safe. They can help. Let's focus on them. That is simple common sense. Kaine wants to treat a risky situation where people cannot be checked the same as a safe and clear one. That is how serious safety problems start. Kaine tries to go back to the 1980s to make his point. Bro, this is 2025. Rubio answered perfectly. He said he was in 8th grade back then. He is not interested in old history talks. Tim, he is focused on what is happening right now. People are being killed right now. Farms are being taken right now. Kaine shows that old global thinking where America is just a place for everyone else to come into. Rubio shows the America First view. We are not a place where everyone can just come without rules. We are our own country. Rubio stayed strong, did not let Kaine's constant complaining and guilt talk affect him. And he said what he believes is true. Skill matters. The country's interest matters. What do you guys think? Is Rubio right to focus on the United States first? Or do you agree with Kaine that we should open the doors to everyone and just hope things go well? Tell me in the comments. Hit the like button if you are tired of identity politics in the Senate. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.